conclave where some of the biggest and the brightest minds of the country come together to talk about the different facets of education. I'm sure yesterday was informative, enlightening, and absolutely wonderful to experience, and we shall carry forward with the same mindset today as well. We have a host of wonderful speakers who are all set to enthrall you. So ladies and gentlemen, let's begin right away. Before we do that, let me also just remind you that if you are going to tweet about us, our Twitter handle is ThinkEDU17. Let me say that again, ThinkEDU17. We were trending yesterday, and I'm sure we will trend today as well because we have some very interesting topics. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with our first panel discussion for the day. The first topic for the day is religious education. Is it relevant in secular India? We have our speakers who are right here with us. We'd like to welcome them on stage with a warm round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. May we welcome on stage Mr. Arif Mohammad Khan, former Union Minister, Mr. Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd, writer, academic, activist for Dalit rights, Mr. Rakesh Sinha, thinker, writer and academician, and our chairperson for this panel discussion, Mr. Manish Tewari, former Union Minister. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and let me just take you through the rules and regulations very quickly. The chairperson will start off and express his views on the topic, post which each speaker will get about 8 to 9 minutes to express their views individually. Then a group discussion will ensue, post which we will leave the floor open for a quick Q&A session. Over to the chairperson.
A quick clarification. Is the chairperson supposed to be neutral in the panel?
We've had very, very different types of panel discussions, so to each one their own self.
Okay, what, 10 minutes each or 8 minutes each?
8 to 9 minutes would be great.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, allow me to thank Mr. Prabhu Chawla and the New Indian Express for bringing us once again to this summit. We have a extremely great panel for you today in the morning. People who are not only very erudite, but extremely well known for their views on various issues. So therefore, we begin the morning by discussing as to, is there place for religious education in a secular India? Now, I do not know whether India is secular any longer, but be that as it may. I agonized over the fact that should I make an intellectual or a seemingly intellectual argument about the proposition that we are debating. But then I thought that since I have wiser people than me on the panel, so therefore let me just begin by telling you a story about my own life and my experience with religious education, and I will leave the intellectual argument to my co-panelists. Champa and I, Champa Kamath, the curator of this program, and I were discussing last night, and we discovered that both of us had been to Catholic schools. So I spent the first 8 years of my life in a Catholic school. And though there was no compulsory catechism for non-Catholic boys, it was a boys' school. So, but all of us went for catechism. And ultimately, after 8 years in the school, I moved on to a government school where we had the regular morning and evening prayers. And after that, moved on to a college which was called the Dayanand Anglo-Vedic College. And by its very name, or by its very nomenclature, you would make out that they subscribed to the tenets of the Hindu faith. And since I was a troublemaker, so 2 years later I got kicked out of college again, and I went to another college which was called the Sanatan Dharma College, and which you would again realize by its very name, has a Hindu religious connotation to it. And ultimately, I went to a public university to pursue my MBA, and then to another public university to pursue my law. And at the end of it, I don't think religious education has done me any harm. Ultimately, to a great extent, all these influences have only reinforced the plurality in me. I recall when I was here in 2015 on a different panel discussing the Uniform Civil Code, somebody asked Mr. Gurumurthy as to why there is no Muslim on the panel. And Mr. Gurumurthy replied that, well, Mr. Tewari is as much a Muslim as anybody else. And I wear that as a badge of honor. And when I go to my erstwhile constituency, and some of the people would say that, why don't you invite a Sikh for, let's say, a Khalsa college function? And the management committee would turn around and say, well, he's as much a Sikh. It's another matter that my mother is a Sikh. So therefore, the short point which I was trying to emphasize is that religious education, proper religious instruction, which does not in any way, discriminate against other faiths, which teaches good virtues about religion per se, which brings about an element of spirituality to your personality, adds that dimension to it, is necessarily not a bad thing. So therefore, I do not find any fundamental incompatibility between religious education in a secular India. Now, I can completely make the converse argument to you that, secularism is about the separation of the church and the state, and so therefore religion is something which is confined to private life and should have no business in the affairs of the state. It's an equally valid argument. Intellectually, it's a proposition which is worth exploring, which is worth taking forward. But the reason why I thought that I will juxtapose these two opposites, the experience of my own life and, the intellectual proposition that the state is supposed to be secular, and secularism means separation of the church and the state, and therefore there should be no role for religious instruction, at least in public universities and in the public education system, is worth taking forward. And so therefore, for the sake of maintaining a semblance of neutrality, let me leave it here. And may I hand over the mic to Mr. Arif Mohammad Khan? Would you, or whichever wants to go first?
Yeah, Mike is here. Mike is here.
No, sir. Whosoever wants to go first. Huh? Alphabetically.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In fact, I feel that the very selection of the topic in India, this kind of topic, is rooted in some confusion, where we feel as if religious education or religion is in conflict with secularism. Yes, if we try to find the definition of secularism in the Oxford Dictionary or British Encyclopedia, then this would sound appropriate. I think the need is not to rely on these sources, but to rely on our own traditions, our own philosophy. In India, we never had this conflict between religion and state. In fact, even in the words of, I was surprised to see this, because many a time people criticize Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru for having chosen this word. Pandit ji, in one of his speeches, has said that for the absence of one single term for the way of life which India has always lived, we chose secularism. We have not imported any ideology. This is our way of life since time immemorial. We have always believed that all people cannot be confined to one single interpretation of reality. We have always believed, ekam sad vipra bahuda vadanti. In fact, the term secularism in Indian context is meant to convey the meaning that we accept and respect every tradition. In fact, if I quote Swami Vivekananda, he says we know that all religions alike, right from lowest fetishism to absolute, highest absolutism, are but so many attempts of the human soul to grasp and realize the infinite. And then further, I'm not going to quote the whole speech, but one sentence which sums up the total Indian attitude. If one religion is true, then all the others must be true. Thus, the Hindu faith is yours as much as mine. We have recognized the differences of the panths, sects, but as far as dharma is concerned, in fact, religion is not the right. We are using mostly dharma for religion, which is not the right, in fact, the correct use of the term, which is not the right translation. Dharma is used more in the sense of multiple identities of a person. I'm somebody's son, I have a putra dharma. I'm somebody's father, I have a pita dharma. I'm in public life, I have Raj dharma. So many multiple identities of a person doing one's duty, something which holds the society together, respecting the limitations. This is what. And as far as education is concerned, if you mean by education, education of theology, then certainly that cannot be undertaken by the state or state-aided or funded institutions. Theology should be left to the people. But as far as religion as a branch of knowledge is concerned, I will give you two examples. As the chairman has told you an anecdote, I also have an anecdote. Many years back, more than 10 years back, in London, I met somebody, in fact a Pakistani. His name is Salman, sort of different sort of person. I was very impressed when he told me that he spent 10 months in Varanasi to learn Sanskrit. And he was BBC producer. He told me that he had gone to make a documentary for BBC to Israel. In Tel Aviv, he asked the professor after the work was over, do you have a Islamic studies department also here? The professor retorted back and said, no, we do not have a department. We have a faculty which has 3 departments. Department for Quranic studies, for Hadith studies, and for Fiqh studies. And out of, they possibly have 9 or 10 universities and many other institutions of very advanced study. Totally he counted 27. And he said out of 27, in 17 we have faculty, and in 10 only we have department which are smaller institutions. Then he says that after about a year, I went to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia to make a documentary. And same question I posed to a professor there. His immediate response was, we do not teach rubbish. Now you can see the difference. There cannot be a better way of knowing a people, or I won't say there cannot be a better way, but this is the most effective way. If you want to understand the people, know about their beliefs, know about their systems, know about their traditions, know about their history. Israel, with very small population, is able to deal so effectively with such large population around who are inimical to them. Why? Because they know them. And only day before yesterday, when I was ordered by Mr. Prabhu Chawla that I have to be present here, it was only 2 days notice, but it was like command, so I had to come. He's an old friend. Here I would like to put, because the day before yesterday, I was watching the House of Commons proceedings. And this I found very interesting, and I thought I will narrate it here. A member of Parliament in House of Commons on 3rd of March, during the Prime Minister's question hours, will the Prime Minister join me? Please give attention to the words which the member has used. Will the Prime Minister join me in congratulating West Shepherd College, who last week won the prestigious Teaching and Learning Award for combining mathematics, arts, religion, and science? Mathematics, arts, religion, and science. And I'm sure she would agree with me that this initiative drives forward inquisitive minds and grows future generations that we will need, etc., etc. The Prime Minister says, I'm very happy to join my friend in congratulating the college. It's really interesting to know the program they have put in place. All colleges across the country should be aspiring to reach these standards. This is again important. All countries. Now, by no stretch of imagination one can doubt the secular ethos of British society. As Indians, we need not even look. I was just, because only day before yesterday I saw it, therefore I thought I would share with you. But I think our own traditions are so rich, so rich. You know, in India, even a conservative legislator like Manu, he says, Etad desha sakashat agraj anmana swam swam charitram shikcheram prithviyam sarvam anava. Why, when we talk of India being world guru, Vishwa Guru, because he said that India is we aspire to be in a position where different people from different backgrounds, different countries, Prithviyam Sarvam, they will come to India and learn about, not about us, they will come and learn about the tradition, their own traditions from the foremost teachers of India. And this is, okay, just one more minute. And this is not only philosophy. The history books, you can see them. Students from India used to travel to Baghdad to learn Quran and Hadith. Then only we can be in a position where we can be teachers of others. And everybody knows, 18th century, even day before yesterday, there was a scholar from Iran. He admitted it, that India has produced much better Persian literature of higher quality than Iran produced in 18th or 19th century. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for bearing with me.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I also thank the New Indian Express for inviting me to this. This is third time I am coming here. Now, I want to basically look at the school education in India. What is the present mode of discourse around religion, religious values, are impacting the school education for not so good learning and not so good citizen making and not so good nation making as such. See, the syllabus content of the schools today varies from, to some extent, state to state. But there is this national view that comes from NCERT and so on. So there is this debate whether the syllabus should be completely secular or, there is nothing like complete secularism or complete religious whatsoever. But there has been a debate when the government changed around the syllabus in the country. Now, the religious component in the school education in both central scheme and the states is increasing. Because the right-wing discourse and its clash with the left-wing discourse is on the competitive course to increase when the right-wing is in the government, to structure the syllabus to teach what they call their own values. Now, one of such serious things in the recent past is, based on certain religious value in some sense, but basically a caste value, which is happening now, moving towards so-called nationalist value, vegetarianism. Now, one of the state governments says that we will not even give egg to the students, kids who come from the poorest of the poor, from the tribal, Dalit, backward, who have no food to eat at home, and therefore feeding them in the school. Not even egg, leave alone meat, chicken, so on. This is, where does it come from? It comes from the Brahminic value and a particular religious value. Now, this would have a serious implication to the national health. I have the data here. In terms of consumption, Saudi Arabia, China, Malaysia, Japan, Indonesia, then India, consumption. Span of life, India is, in these Asian countries, the last but one. Pakistan is the last one. And in IQ, Pakistan is 2 points higher than India. Now, what do Chinese children eat? What do Pakistani children eat? If my friends who talk about nationalism, how do our children's IQ and the mental, physical energy should improve with mere vegetarianism, which is not really totally available in the rural areas? As a shepherd child, I learned eating vegetables only after going to college, actually. We used to eat all sorts of meat around our villages. Now, this is one major concern. I think all shades of people are pushing their religious values, and when a particular government thinks in terms of one religion, if it pushes values like vegetarianism, where do you stand in terms of nationalism with the Chinese food cultural values? Even with the Pakistani food cultural values. See, protecting the nation, from childhood you have to train your child to be very strong mentally and physically. And then you send them to army, you send them to universities, you send them to, various fields of life to fight and defend the nation. If you feed your children with poor vegetarian food, tomorrow how would they become strong soldiers to fight a China which is meatarian, beefarian, fisharian, porkarian, whatnot? And Pakistan which eats its own food. This is my serious concern. Therefore, I began to write of late, vegetarianism is anti-national. It is not, see, around this cow debate, this is deepening into schools, and this has to be seriously looked at. The second one is, yes, there is a competition of pushing religious ideologies. There is nothing wrong if one learns about the great people, whether they are prophets of India and the world. We children have to learn. But this is a country which needs to go towards abolition of caste inequalities, human untouchability in the spiritual educational structure. The urban children don't know what is the Indian village. And one of the solutions I have is teaching heavy amount of dignity of labor. I have written this book called Turning the Pot, Tilling the Land, Dignity of Labor in Our Times. See, look at these things: shoemaking, pot making, tilling the land, washing the clothes. Indian men right from childhood stage, Indian boys, are not asked to sweep the house, wash the dishes, wash the clothes, and if that is taught, there is a view that male children's malehood will disappear. Imagine the danger. So, the present government's slogan of Swachh Bharat, if men do not sweep anything, how does a Bharat will be Swachh? It's only either women's job or lower caste job. You have not taught the upper caste children that you should wash your utensils. You should clean your house. So there is no dignity of labor. Every amount of religion, okay, you teach Ramayana, Mahabharata, you teach Quran, Bhagavad Gita in competition. But that is not production. That is not national growth. And nobody bothers. I have written this book 10 years back. Nobody bothers about putting dignity of labor in school syllabus. Neither the earlier governments nor the present governments. They think that dignity of labor hits their upper caste hegemony. And if we are talking about defending the country from borders, there were Mahar regiment. There was Ahir regiment. Ahirs were Yadavs. There was Jhat regiment. There was Gurkha regiment. There were many regiments. But there was no Brahmin regiment in this country. Why? They were in the universities, they were in the colleges, they were in the judiciary, they were everywhere. And they are the main so-called intellectuals of the nation. But there is no regiment. Because even South India's, the Brahminic force became vegetarian. Can it fight with vegetarian, with China and Pakistan, if there is a Brahmin regiment? So this is a serious issue. All hegemonic structures are headed by these Brahminic vegetarian forces, and they are driving Indian education towards vegetarianism, which cannot defend this nation. This nation was defeated several times because of caste and religious conflict and wrong human values. So my appeal to Eventxpress group is, Prabhu Chawla Sahab, whatever could be, you have not chosen your caste when you were born. I have not chosen my parents. We were accidentally born. But let us campaign for teaching dignity of labor from class 1 to 12. Let us see then what happens in the nation. Thank you. Look at this book, nobody reads it. This is Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd written, therefore nobody should read it.
Because you speak so much on television, so people know your idea.
No, not that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I also thank in New India Express Group in general and Sri Prabhu Chawla ji in particular. Look, we are not addressing the fundamental things in India. In 1931, there were two speeches. One in London, other was in Chandrapur, Kolkata. The first speech by Mahatma Gandhi. He was delivering a memorial lecture there, and he said, the Britishers have destroyed a beautiful tree, destruction of a beautiful tree. At the same time, K.C. Bhattacharya, a little known philosopher in India, in his Ashutosh memorial lecture, he said, political independence is very important. When man is subjugated, it is visible, it is tangible. But the subjugation of idea is the most important thing. Unless until a community or a society or a nation liberates itself from the subjugation of idea, your paradigm would be decided by some alien forces. You see in the globe, West is a province. If globe is a country, then Western countries are a province. That province is treating us as they are the globe, we are their province. So we have to change the paradigm. The paradigm can be changed by two ways. The most important thing which this topic already delineates, the mode is spiritualism. This is the key word, this is the key asset of this civilization. I don't treat India as a nation state. India represents a civilizational nation state. India is the only country which represents a civilization. So, a nation state, because India never believed in the boundary. India, nationalism is an alien concept for India. We believe the Bharatvarsha. Wherever our culture was, wherever our civilizational traces are, that was Bharatvarsha. Lord Rama went to Lanka, but Lanka was not annexed. But Bharatvarsha was there. Kandhar, Bharatvarsha was there. As much Republic of Vaishali and Lakshmi, so to Kandhar and Lanka for us. So we have to change this. That is Swaraj in ideas. There is a Swaraj in politics. There is Swaraj in economics. But there is no Swaraj in ideas. I am very much in agreement with Sri Arif Mohammad Khan Sahab. He is one of the most learned person in this country. And is a parameter for a secularism. If there is one parameter for secularism, it is Mr. Arif Mohammad Khan. Dharma and religion, what is the distinction? I am giving two examples. Dharma liberates a man from self-acquired prejudices, self-acquired immaturity. That is dharma. And religion subjugates you and compels you to become integral part of certain kind of perception and live a life under that perception. Because there is a paucity of time, I am giving two examples. What is dharma? Nachiketa questioned his father. He was not questioning. He was accusing his father in the form of questions. You go through the Kathopanishad. He had samvad with Yamraj. This is the quest. Nobody can stop anyone asking a question, contestation. So contestation is the fundamental thing in dharma. Second, tolerance. I am giving the extreme example of tolerance in dharma. You know, Yudhishthira was asked, your mother is beautiful. Sometimes lust comes in your mind for your mother. Yudhishthira smiled. Physical beauty attracts, he says. but I am guided by dharma. I have dharma for the community. I have dharma for society. I have dharma for civilization. I have dharma for my mother. You ask somebody on the street that you get attracted to mother, you have lust for your mother, he will slap you. Why we have changed? That is the fundamental question. It is a Semitic aggression on India. We have to make a clear distinction between Semitic religions and non-Semitic religions that Hinduism represents. Hinduism is not that what we are going to be akin to Semitic. Sometimes we want to become a Semitic, parallel to Semitic. Sometimes they want to make us Semitic. It is a quest for truth. Truth has various forms. Nobody can decide what is the truth. It is unstoppable. It is unquestionable. So human mind cannot be curbed by any text, any prophet. He can be part of that journey, lokayat. Kancha Ilaiah was talking about the vegetarianism and non-vegetarianism. What is the lokayat philosophy? They questioned the established paradigm and they said that you judge everything by your daily practices. Not what the text says, not what other ignorant people say. They said all other people who said something in text, they were ignorant. So you are the most reasonable person. When Western country in 1783 in Berlin club was debating enlightenment, then Kant, one of the philosophers, we quote Kant and we feel that we are very much a scholar, but you just go to Nyaya's philosophy, Sankhya Darshan. So people are unaware. So Kant says that enlightenment is your courage to use your reason. If you don't have courage to use your religion, then you are not enlightened people. So religion has two dimensions here, education. One is education into religion, other is education about religion. So India requires to change the meta-narrative. These are the micro-narratives. We can have debate, vegetarian, non-vegetarian. Dignity of labor, nobody can question that there should be egalitarian society. No society can progress, no society can claim dharma where there is no egalitarian, where there are untouchables, where the people are treated as second-rate citizens, when people are asked not to do so or do so. You know the Chairman Mosque, who built that mosque? A Hindu king built mosque in Malabar in Kerala. For the Muslim. There are umpteen examples. In South, there are certain temples where traditional trustees were Muslims. And I was going through the 1911 census report. My work is coming on demography. I have gone through the entire reports of the 1872 to 1951, all the census reports. And the census enumerators were amazed by seeing the diversities in India. In 1911 census report, it has been, they wrote, in India, nobody has any problem to say about his or her religion. Nobody bothers about his neighbor's religion. If they bothers about, that is the social status, which Mr. Kancha Ilaiah is very right, very genuinely. Sometimes I support him. We have to address the realities. So here, I will summarize it with just 30 seconds. We have to change the meta-narrative in a way that we have to study our tradition, dharma. Secondly, in school education, we have to liberate our children from the clutches of the religious prejudices they acquire in family, in church, temples, or mosques. The school is a center for educational learning, and the school has the moral obligation to liberate a child, to make him to go by his reason rather than go by the prejudice and the perception. So I think this is a very necessity for India, but necessity in terms of epistemology and ontological. both changes are required. We can't go the way the West is giving the religious education or Saudi Arabia is giving the religious education. We have to think in terms of civilizational and cultural context of India, which is 10,000 years old, which has not born in 1947 or 1857. Thank you.
I must thank all the panelists for some extremely enlightening remarks, and we stuck to time. May I now open the floor so that so you need to have, you want us to do a round amongst us? Well, all of us keep talking to each other. Why don't we just throw the floor open and yeah?
Yeah, we ask
Yeah?
person by person.
Well, I think, go right ahead.
Okay, let me just kickstart. See, the Indian Council for Research in International Economic Relations came out with a report early in 2000 to understand the civilizational propensities about which Mr. Rakesh was referring to, and found that the Indian civilization gained global supremacy because of its quote within quote, the vegetarian militancy without having to invade any nation. That the biggest temple was in Cambodia. There was a remote village in Vietnam where people were speaking Sanskrit. That the Central University in Indonesia was once named the Sandipani University. So it was because of the soft cultural and spiritual assets about which you were mentioning that we were as a civilization able to gain global supremacy, and this was what the report cited. So my question to Mr. Arif Mohammad Khan is, in today's discourse of secular polity, is it possible to kind of build such soft assets, cultural and spiritual, across all faiths, and ensure that it is possible to build an educational ecosystem, because that is a topic, without having to, misunderstand the definition of secularism, as a result of which the product of education also gets distorted. So is it still possible within the secular framework to have a mix of these soft assets from all faiths, given the challenge that the establishment is having today?
Yeah, maybe we'll take all the questions, so that we will take all the questions and answer.
Why don't we just...
Yeah.
Why don't you ask? We will take it from the next one.
I think what you are saying is possible, the soft power, application of the soft power. In a secular society only. And when I say secular, I'm using the word secularism, but by secularism, I do not mean the secularism of the old secularism of the West. I mean the respect and acceptance of diversity. If we look at the history, I will particularly, I will refer to Muslim history. The gains which were made as a result of aggressiveness, which comes from the desire of political empire building or expansion. Huge gains were made, very huge gains. In fact, for 500 years, Muslims were the single superpower in the world, more than 500 years. We could not digest America being single superpower even for 25 years. But Muslims were single superpower for more than 500 years. But since then, when the decline started, the political Islam is consistently taking a backseat. On the other hand, spiritual Islam not at any time has taken the back seat. The glorious period you have referred to, in fact, I hold that India has no religion. The only religion which India has, if we insist on using the term religion, then India's religion is spirituality. Here the term which has been used for the religion is Adhyatma. Adhyatma means study of the science of soul. This cannot be based on aggression. This can only appeal to the hearts. The spiritual side of the religion appeals to the hearts. The political side, naturally, by very definition, spirituality unites people, because if you are a spiritual person, then I won't even make that distinction which Rakesh Sinha ji has made, Semitic and Indian religions. Swami Vivekananda refused to make that distinction. In fact, you treat each and every one. You know, what is the attribute of God which has been highly emphasized in Sanatan tradition? Sarv Bhutadhivasam. Sarvanatham. He dwells in each and every one of us. And when I say namaste, the other person asks me, why you have to bow before a person who is like you? The reply comes from the Rishi. I do not bow before a person who is like me. Rather, I acknowledge the presence of the divine in that person, and I bow before that divine in him. So it is because India's religion essentially truly is spirituality. And we are only, when we use, one thing I am certain, because I gave you Muslim example, it applies to everybody. Whosoever will use religion, spirituality, is to unite people. Politics, because I am seeking something. I want some power and pelf. Therefore, it necessarily divides people. Whenever religion is used for political purposes, for political organization, for building political constituency, there are always disastrous consequences. But India, we have disastrous consequences we have seen. This country was partitioned. But this is a very, very, it's a very old civilization. It can survive all these shocks. But ultimately, the basic ethos of India will prevail. I have no doubt about it.
Could you identify yourself also?
Yeah, my name is Santosh. This question to all the panels. So I studied in a Christian school like Manish Tewari. It's a Roman Catholic school, and there are several schools like they teach, of course, regular classes plus some ideologies that will be separate. But if a Christian ideology or a mythology taught by a school, it is not seen in any other way. The same thing like for Hindu mythology, there are some schools, separate classes, not in a regular class. But the same way, the Muslim mythology, madrasa schools are targeted or seen as if they are producing terrorists. So I'd like to have a view on that. Thank you.
Well, Rakesh, would you like to start?
Look, at the micro level, we find that all religions are equal. But philosophically, there is a fundamental difference between Semitic and non-Semitic religion. That determines the role of religion in society and individual's life. The religion which says that this is the ultimate truth, this is in an uncritical zone, that creates a problem. There can't be multiculturalism in a society where some people say this is the ultimate truth, this is uncritical zone, this is unquestionable, this way of life is the only way of life. Here our dharma, nobody is beyond the critical zone. Even the god and goddesses, traditions and cultures, prophets and sons, everyone in critical zone. They negotiate with our reasoning. They may be great, I may not be great, but my reasoning, their reasoning, there is a negotiation between two, and then synthesis comes. Here Semitic religion is an aggression on dharma. So Semitic religion has to change according to and they have to negotiate with the modernity. There should be revision in the text. This is the fundamental, we have to raise the fundamental issues. They have to provide these circumstances where the text can be questioned. We can question the Vedas, we can question the Mahabharata, we can question the Ramayana, we can reject it. So right to reject and remaining in the same religion is secularism. If I am rejecting Ramayana, I am rejecting the vegetarianism, still I am a Hindu. If someone rejecting Quran, still he is a Muslim. That situation is required. Multiculturalism can't be survived. You are enjoying the multiculturalism, but you are not contributing the multiculturalism. Privileged by multiculturalism and privileging multiculturalism, they are two different things. So you have also to privilege the multiculturalism according to the dharma. So our emphasis should be to change the narrative rather than go by the Western and Semitic narrative.
My question to Mohammad sir.
You know, the question of teaching religion in schools, we have to look at what is happening at the ground level. Now, there is, RSS has its own Saraswati Shishu Mandirs. It teaches its own syllabus, in which I do not know, I have to look at their syllabus. There are 3 great prophets, and the 4th religion which does not have a prophet is Hinduism, but actually it was Raja Ram Mohan Rai who named this religion as Hindu earlier. It was Sanatan Dharma, very vague. Now Buddha, Jesus, Mohammad were not Semitic, they were Asians. The fact that Christianity has gone towards West does not make us feel that, you know, this has to be drawn a line here. But the question is, when you teach a very young mind, apart from your at home, whatever you teach, because parents practice religion, children imbibe that practices as a day-to-day life practice, but the moment school begins to teach religion, there is this historically observed fact all over the world that the strengthening of the mind around experimentation becomes less and less. Religion does not give much scope for experimentation, reputation and revalidation. So my feeling is, even if I go by Rakesh's notion of nationalism, if you want to make India strong, number one, you can make India strong only from LKG to 12th, all children feel all of them are equal, which you don't have in the syllabus today. Let RSS ask it. Why should I alone ask? I am a victim of that system. When I wrote, why I am not a Hindu, my God was not Krishna, Rama or Vishnu or Shankara or whatever. My goddess was Pochamma, Maisamma in the village. I never knew what this textual God is. And 60% of Indian people are like that. Why do you assume that you are right from your text, your background? See, the problem with the Brahminic background is, it eats vegetarianism, it thinks that the world is vegetarian. See, that is the problem. He doesn't see Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd growing sheep and goat, and food is sheep and goat meat also. So, whether it is Christian teaching, Muslim teaching, Hindu teaching, this is a country of SC, ST, OBC tribals who are out of these religions in good number. There should be an alternative teaching where everybody must be included. The inclusive factor of religion could be possible only when you set these religious practices in the school level at the end. I'll give you one example. When I was head in Osmania University, a welfare student farewell function, suddenly ABVP student brought Saraswati put there. Saraswati as goddess of education. The SC, ST, OBC said, look, throughout our Indian history, we never treated Saraswati as our goddess of education because we had no education. If she was your goddess, she denied me education. Therefore, we don't accept Saraswati. They said, Savitribai Phule, the first teacher of India, is our goddess. So put her there. They removed Saraswati. There was a clash. Students started beating each other. But SC, ST, OBCs were majority. I went there and said, look, Saraswati was also not my goddess of education. Because she never taught me. She never allowed me, my shepherd community, to learn. Therefore, these are very serious differences. We need to negotiate by putting these symbols outside the school. Thank you.
Well,
my question, sir, my question.
No, I'm still in the process of answering the question. Just as a aside, I would like to tell Mr. Kancha Ilaiah that all Brahmins are not vegetarian. So that.
Thank you.
But
there are many.
To answer your question more directly, if your question was that if catechism or various other religious practices can be taught in Hindu and Christian schools, why are madrasas targeted? That, I think, was your specific question. Well, I think that's an extremely profound question which needs an answer. And the answer really is that, especially in the South Asian region, starting off with the phase of what is called the Afghan Jihad, and the subsequent American withdrawal from Afghanistan, there was an attempt to try and demonize. And over a period of time, since global developments panned out in a certain manner, and there is a dominant discourse, and there are certain people who underpin that dominant discourse, there has been this vilification which has taken place. So therefore, it becomes extremely important for people who subscribe to that faith, people who are leaders of that faith, in order to disabuse others of this notion that religion is being used as a trigger or as a motivator for violence. So therefore, the disabusement of this notion that madrasas produce terrorists has to really come out of the leadership of the Muslim community. So therefore, unfortunately, they have been confronted with this extremely virulent discourse which has sought to demonize, which has sought to vilify. There may be, some truth in what some misguided preachers may be doing, but that is not the norm. That is the exception. And so therefore, I guess there is a certain responsibility which devolves on the leadership of that community in order to ensure that this myth is disabused and it is demolished. Can we move on to the last question? There's just only one question.
One question, please. Give us your name.
Just a minute, please. Sir. Because here, when Mr. Manish Tewari says leaders of the community, then who will speak on behalf of them? Who is the leader of the community? No, I did not say leader. I'm saying leaders. Leaders. Because, you know, lot of work, academic work has been done on this problem. Even those who were recruited in Pakistan to fight in Afghanistan as Mujahideen, Dr. Suhail, who is a professional psychiatrist, a Pakistani, trained as a psychiatrist in Paris, he has written a brilliant book on this problem. And then he says out of the 500 Mujahideen who were sent back by the Afghanistan to Pakistan after they spent few years in the jails, he had interviewed each one of them. And he has given his conclusions. 97% of them were shown to have links with Deobandi thought or Deobandi madrasa. Not even, no other institution of any other country has been mentioned. Deoband has been mentioned. Now we must also look. Some introspection is needed. Whether this can be dealt with by what you are saying, the leaders of the community, when these people are constantly patronized by the political establishment. If the political establishment patronizes them, others who are marginalized in the society, they keep raising their voices, but they are marginalized in the society. Why they are marginalized in the society? Because these people are patronized by the political establishment. And I'm not making any distinction. Political establishment across the party lines, they patronize them. We must also try to find out a solution for this problem, how to get rid of this attitude of patronizing these people, and I'm not going to say for what reason they are patronized.
Rakesh,
no.
Sir, please.
The reason for targeting madrasa is two. One, their teaching and preaching, both are against the modern system of education. They don't allow their students to mix up with the modernity. So the education into religion and the fundamental religion, that too, not getting rationalized. This is one of the reasons. Christianity evolved with the capitalism. So religion, when evolving with its economic system, gets negotiated with the requirements of the and context. That's why Christianity has liberal attitude and Islam could not. As for Arif Muhammad Khan's one statement that in India the patronization, I wrote an article why Mr. Arif Muhammad Khan is irrelevant in politics. Because he is a secular Muslim, so he is irrelevant. Had he been secular, but because by birth you are politics, so no party considers him a relevant person. Because he can't garner votes according to his own religious fundamentalism.
We make it the last question. I'll go right at the back.
Sir.
The person who's sitting last at the back, that young lady there. Yes, you in the pink. Yeah.
Your name and which capacity you're here in, please, before you pose your question.
My name is Nivedita. I'm from MOB Vaishnav College. And my question to the entire panel, whoever wants to answer is, what exactly do you mean by secular? Because I studied in a primarily Hindu school and I grew up learning about Hindu myths. And I know people who grew up in Christian schools and they learn mostly Christian stuff. So what exactly do you mean? How exactly will you enforce a secular education? I mean, could you give us an example of what kind of model or structure you would propose to make sure that students learn about all religions?
That is the perfect way of ending this discussion. And we'll go around the panel and I'll ask each of the panelists to define what do they mean by secularism or what does secularism mean to them.
You know, there are only two teachers here. He is a junior teacher and senior, therefore see, the notion of secularism is state keeping religion away from its own day-to-day practices and also from its institutions. Now the question arises, do schools become part of the state, and should they also keep religion away? What you raised is very important. You studied in an Hindu institution, therefore they taught more about Hindu mythology, heroes, and goddess and goddesses and so on. The Christian schools do name in the name of Saint Joseph, Saint Thomas, Saint Francis, so on and so forth. Now this is where the problem arises. More than that, when the last NDA government was there, when the syllabus was prepared by Rajput-headed NCRT, it was debated as more of a communal syllabus. Then came the UPA government. Then Arjun Singh became the minister. Then deconstructing that syllabus became a big issue. Now this is again starting, and then again it will start. My question is, don't name any school with any saint at all. Any school, whether Christian or non-Christian or whatever. Secondly, the notions of gods, goddesses are absolutely individual. It should not get into the institution. Your children might learn at home, but within the school, the syllabus should be secular in the form of, let us say, you teach histories of nations, you teach work ethics, you teach, different practices, arts, social science, and so on and so forth. But less and less religious component will help India in strengthening itself. That is where the conflict is going to be more and more serious. See, I keep saying, though, Rakesh was asking...
So we are a little out of time. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm just closing. That there are vegetarian Dalits also, as meatarian Brahmins are. Yes, there are. But the cultural conflict is more upper caste children studied in Christian schools in India. They never became Christians. Only Dalits who never studied in those schools are becoming Christian. Why? Study has nothing to do. The social, spiritual inequalities make people transform their positions. Therefore, we need to understand secularism, not from Western point of view. I meet more of my right-wing friends, particularly even RSS, BJP, to quote more from West. I always quote from Indians. And they say, I am anti-national. That is another thing. If you quote more from India, you are anti-national. See, this is absolutely bad. We have lot of rich material to teach, irrespective of religions and apart from religion. That can be taught to students. Thank you.
Well, 2 minutes to Rakesh ji, then Arif Sir, and then
I believe that the purpose of religious studies is to create a consciousness among the children that they should depend on reasoning. It is not about the religion. You have to, because the reality is that there are religions in the country. So children must know what religion stands for, what Islam stands for women, what Christianity stands for women, what Hinduism stands for women, what about the egalitarianism. So basic purpose is to create sensitivity among the children. Secondly, some kind of moral obligations, because society is guided by realities, not by hypothesis. Hypothesis for the academic purpose. Second, I think a better way is to start cultural studies in India rather than religious studies. Cultural studies would include the religious studies, because our hypothesis is common with me and at least Arif Mohammad Khan, that even Manish Tewari would agree that there is a difference between dharma and religion. The religion is a Semitic because church and state clash. In India, there has not been clash between dharma and the state. Rather, dharma is required for the state and polity. Without dharma, no society can move, no state can be sensitive state. And I agree with Mr. Kancha Ilaiah, egalitarianism is a core of any society. We stand for that, and Vidya Bharati, you are mentioning the school of RSS school, you just visit the school, see the syllabus, then be a critic. In India, we start with perception, then interpretation, at last we go to facts. Instead, we start with facts, then interpretation, last we should go to perception. So you change your models.
One day we'll
Arif
go
sir.
together.
Well, sir,
We'll go together.
You must take him.
sir, I must inform you that after reaching the age of retirement, I started taking classes in MET University in Pune. The young lady has asked about what she asked us to define secularism. I think I devoted a good part of my remarks earlier how secularism should be understood in the Indian context. It should not be treated as a borrowed theory, but rooted in our own way of life. The Rig Veda, the age is, some people say 3,500 years, some say 5,000 years, and the new evidence, if it is conclusively proved, then it's coming to about 10,000 years. We have this thing where we do not sit in judgment about the other person, other faith. We do not make qualitative remarks about them, where we say that each religion, each religious tradition attempt by different souls to reach and grasp the infinite. And I cannot prescribe something better than what I prescribed for my two children when they were young. First thing I asked them to study the scriptures not as believers. Not as believers. As seekers of truth, seekers of wisdom. Secondly, I told them, we are fortunate we are born in India. If you really want to understand our country, the motherland, then read everything. And I'm a lover of books since very, very young age. Very, very young age, when I even did not really understood the meaning of the book. Since that age, I'm a lover of books. I told them, read everything, but read Swami Vivekananda compulsorily. And I think that will give us a better idea to understand what Indian religion, which to my mind is not like any other religion, it is spirituality. Which Swami Vivekananda says, if you want to be religious, don't become part of an organized religion. It is much better to be without religion than becoming part of an organization, organized religion. It is the organization which kills the spirituality. It is the organization which kills the real spirit of the religion. And that's why I'm totally against using religion for political purposes. Politics divides us, spiritually unites us.
Well, let me have the final word on this.
I'm not with organized.
Well, let me have the final word on this. Notwithstanding my own experiences with religion while going through the school and college process, I think secularism actually means the separation of the church and the state. And Rakesh, and Rakesh may say that in the Indian context, there is no conflict between dharma and the state. But the inflection points that we've been coming to, well, the conflict is becoming more and more evident. And so therefore, if you ask for my personal prescription, I think religious instruction, notwithstanding the constitutional protections of Article 29 and 30, should have no place in the school system at all. Well, whether you can replace it by cultural education or some distilled form of moral science, whereby people of different faiths come together and come to a common denominator of universal values, is something that we can debate. There is enough religion in the private space in India. I think we should leave the school system liberated from any kind of religious bigotry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think this has been one of the most enlightening debates that we've had. Another strong round of applause for our panelists. Some very bold statements, different viewpoints, and ultimately a lot of food for thought. I think we've discussed a whole gamut of ideas, and we started off with the question, religious education, is it relevant in secular India? But I think the right question to ask right now is it necessary in secular India? And I think all of you will agree with me. May I request Mr. Prabhu Chawla, our editorial director, to kindly join me on stage and felicitate our wonderful panelists for the day. Thank you, Mr. Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd. Thank you, Mr. Arif Mohammad Khan, Mr. Manish Tewari, and Mr. Rakesh Sinha. Thank you very much for being here. A quick group photo opportunity, please.
They are telling me that we are facilitating them after the speech. I said this is recognition of a good speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, we shall begin the next panel discussion right away. There will be no breaks, and this is also a very, very interesting topic. I'm sure all of us have our own viewpoints on this. The next topic that we will be addressing is India investing enough in healthcare? Before that, I'd once again like to thank our lovely panelists who've kick-started the day so beautifully for us.